So thank you, Peggy. Thank you for everything. And life goes on. Okay, let's go ahead. Minutes. I just see that, Sandy, you were not sure of the name of the first name of the Payne Endowment.
Right.
So Paul, what Mr. Doan manages what's the first name of the Payne Endowment?
Your name is Bethia, Bethia.
Say again.
Bethia, B as in Bob, B as in Bravo, Ethia, Bethia.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I believe that's the only correction that I saw to the minutes. Does
And
anyone?
I need to take the H off Deborah's name.
Okay. I believe we do that every other meeting.
I'll get it one of these days.
Never. We're at an age we don't have to remember those things.
What things?
Helpful if I do, though.
Does anyone else have any changes? Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Deb,
I'll second.
Janet, second. All those in favor, and I'm going to simply ask one by one. Deb?
Yes.
Janet?
Aye.
I say aye. Sandy?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes have been approved 4-0. And we can roll right into Paul Doan's project. Paul, tell us where things are at.
Well, thanks, David, to the members of the committee. And I also just want to mention that Peggy was certainly, as we all know, a wonderful person, and she was instrumental in helping me in my efforts here, always very supportive. Obviously, there was issues to resolve internally with the board, but nevertheless, she always very pleasant, very supportive, very enthusiastic about the work that we were discussing and discussing for a long, long time. And that certainly is much sadness to me personally and to the entire community. She's was a wonderful Howard contributor on everything she did.
And Paul, before we go any further, I see that Marie has joined us along with, who's hiding behind the mask?
Kathy?
Taffy Aldrovandi.
Hi, Taffy. Glad to have you here. Thanks for coming. I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
Well, as far as the project is concerned, of course, I appreciate the Commission's comments last week. I reached Rocky and Clark in terms of advising in light of the discussions we had. Decided that at this point, I'm trying to make sure I don't get too far ahead of myself in terms of costs that I'm personally incurring at this point. So I asked Rocky if we could sort of defer the idea of going through a new upgrading revising of the plan. In light of the discussions from last week, I reviewed the plan as well. I tell that with the thought possibly is the chairman had mentioned about increasing the parking area.
All right, Paul.
Yes.
I don't know if others are hearing you clearly. I'm having trouble. Can we all try muting other than Paul while he's talking, just to see if that helps? Sometimes there's feedback.
Turn this up a little bit further.
David is suggesting muting us.
Okay, Paul, let's try again. Can you just back up a little bit?
Certainly. I know what the committee of last time. Is that any better? Now I can't hear you, David. You've got your button up.
It was just so-so. Just keep trying. I'll let you know.
Okay. I'll speak up. So what, in light of what the committee had reviewed with me last time, but rather than get into a full-scale revision of the plan at this point, because I say I'm trying to keep the costs of this, to me personally at this point, to somewhat of a manageable number. So until I can get back to the Cape and start doing some more effort at raising funds. But in looking at the plan that we had last time, it was clear to me that in allowing for, as one of the items that was discussed last time, the expansion of the parking area, allowing for that and moving the low wall and garden area and walkway about 15 feet further west on the property, if we simply revise the scale of the plan that was submitted so that instead of being, it should be 1 inch to 20, we'll make it 1 inch to 10 feet. That makes the walkway about 35 feet now from the front of the barn to what is anticipated to be the paved area if the parking lot is eventually expanded as discussed. So the plan in itself kind of remains intact. It's just that the scale has been reduced, but in terms of the hardscapes portion of the plan, the wall structure and the brick walkway, the distance now between the pay parking and the barn is 35 feet of brick walkway, and the wall will still be set in slightly from the planned future expanded parking area. If the parking doesn't materialize as quickly, let's say, no harm really, because it just means there'll be a bit more area between the wall and the paved parking. I also discussed with Rocky my thought that maybe we would shift the location of the trees because of the tightening of the space by some 15 feet between the parking and the barn, and maybe as a result shift the trees so that the beech tree as planned would be on the back corner by Forest and parallel, and would move the gum tree to the front, since it takes a little less area when full grown, and also the root structures is a little different and a little deeper with the gum. And so I think from the standpoint of completing that section, it will make things a little bit more manageable with the reduced size. Other than that, I've continued to talk to people at the town hall that remain supportive. And my plan is that if the commission is supportive of moving ahead, then we'll get a final plan. Maybe I could submit to you, subject to your approval. But basically, the plan that would come back will have the hardscape structures on it the plantings as expected, those 3 trees which were shown, and eventually, according to my suggested phase scheduling, other areas would be added, the fencing along the Forest Street line, and some low plantings along Parallel Street, and some arborvitae plantings in front of the fencing along Forest Street. And that would be sort of the extent of the effort. I'd be pleased to respond to any specific questions about any part of this. In terms of how do we pay for this and the phasing, as I've said before, I'm hoping in terms of a timeline to shoot for the fall of 2022 to complete the project. So we'll have much of the latter part of this year and next year. 2022 is the 160th birthday anniversary of Elmer Kroll. So it would seem to be an appropriate target date at which, if this work is completed and other improvements that I'm sure are going to be done with the barn itself in terms of exhibits and displays and programs and so forth, it might be a good target date to complete all of the exterior work as well. In terms of my efforts, I'll be returning to the Cape on the early part of June and plan to move quickly into an effort to begin raising funds. I'm looking to try to do the hardscapes, if this is approved, during the early part of the summer of this year, meaning the brickwork and the stone wall work, and then have the plantings and any irrigation and so forth, other than that needed obviously to prepare the trees area, for the fall of 2021, and then the completion of the effort in terms of other the fencing and some of the other smaller plantings, probably in the spring of 2022, so that hopefully by the fall of 2022, the trees and other plantings, grass and so forth, are in shape for what I would like to have as the formal, completion of the project. And so I'm planning to try to use the summer of this year and into the fall, and then next year to undertake and complete the fundraising that will be necessary. I do have some bids from people, very reasonable at this point, and I've mentioned those in my outline provided earlier in terms of the phased work project. So I don't have a final price on this yet, but obviously I'm going to try to find from as many providers of both services and material, hopefully as much either donated or seriously reduced out in terms of their support for this project, and maybe some publicity or somehow providing them with the knowledge of the work that they've done or the materials that they've provided. So I'm kind of hoping that my need for funding is less than if I was taking it on as just a private project. And finally, the one thing that kind of is important to me, and I would ask hopefully for the commission's help on this, and that's just, I've had conversations with the Society's treasurer in terms of working out a structure whereby donations could be made dedicated expressly to this effort, and a separate account maintained because obviously I would need to be able to utilize indirectly anyway the tax benefit treatment of donations to the society to support the exterior landscaping project. So
Thank you,
that's
Paul.
kind of completes my report. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me open it up to both the commission and anyone else for any questions. And feel free to unmute. I think that seemed to have helped, but I think we can all talk as a group easier. So it's not seeing anybody jumping in. Let me just ask Paul. When do you say would be the first planting or hardscape construction?
Well, my hope would be that I can put together some funds from donations, phone-wise, just contacting people, sufficient to cover that first phase, which would be the hardscape phase. And if I'm able to do that in the period, let's say from the middle April to middle June, then I would like to try to have that work done. That work can actually, in my view, be done and in talk with Rocky and so forth, without interference in terms of the operation of the museum itself. It would be minimal disruption. People could easily get in and around if there was traffic. But my thought to be a specific date, I might like to start around, let's say, the 10th or 15th of June, if possible, and try to be complete with that work before we get into the peak part of the season in early July.
Okay, so before you do anything that's fixed to the ground, i.e. the wall or the trees,
Right.
I believe I understood how you described it just now verbally, but we should still have a plan. It doesn't have to be a fancy plan showing the scaled location of where everything is. I would like to just have us take a final look at that to make sure it's all in the right place.
Excuse me, go ahead.
We were going to meet with Joe Powers. We should finish that just to make sure whether he needs to have the Board of Selectmen take a look at this. And also, I expressed to you my opinion that I did not see why this had to go to the planning board for a wall and for trees, but I was going to ask for, since they've sort of got staff in transition, I was going to ask Joe how he wanted us to proceed on that. So I did send you a summary from last meeting. I've belatedly copied all of the members. I don't know if you saw it in your email this morning. If not, it's sitting there waiting for you. But that simply summarizes what we said last time, and I think still holds true today.
Yes, the plan itself would be largely unchanged from the plan that was submitted to the commission for the last meeting. As I said, with the revision actually of the tree location and the change in the scale, but the general flow of the material, I'm not dealing with any of the other materials thoughts we had, focusing mainly on just the plantings itself and the hardscapes. So the physical plan itself won't be changed greatly. We will define more clearly, because that issue had come up about the construction of the wall. I had offered some thoughts on that, but apparently more clarification. So we'll definitely have that. And obviously change the scale, move the tree numbers so that the beech is to the back and the gum to the front. But other than that, the same sort of plan is in effect as proposed with the initial. But we definitely will provide you with a final plan. I just didn't want to go ahead with having that done unless I knew the commission remained health helpful and supportive to this effort. And as far as the town is concerned, I haven't spoken with Joe of late, Joe Powers, but he and the Board of Selectmen through Larry Valentine, and had spoken to Steve Ford before his very unfortunate passing. But the board was in, at least while Larry and Steve were very supportive, as was Joe Powers, to the need to get this work undertaken and completed. So,
And Paul, as I'm sure you know, I'm glad that Joe and Larry are supporting it. If they're supporting it just as a well wishes, that's one thing. If they feel an actual vote of the board is needed, we just need to know that.
right.
And let me just ask Sandy and Janet and Deborah, what level of detail do you want to see? Have you seen enough in the plan to let me finalize the details with Paul, or would you like to wait till we make sure exactly where everything is? How formal do you want to be about it? Go ahead, Sandy.
Comment on that and the question. I think, what we've heard and seen is fine. I don't think it has to be terribly formal. I mean, just as of course of where you're putting trees and plants and what have you. It sounds good, and I think the plan so far looks fine. But I do have a question.
Go ahead.
General, does any of this fall under the purview of the Historic District Commission? Do we need to touch bases with them?
That part of the property is not in the historic district.
Yeah, it cuts off halfway through the parking lot. So where the shed is kind of the end of the historical district.
The location of the shed is a nasty trick that Janet and I did to make sure that it was out of the district.
Right.
Janet, did you have any comments?
Good job.
No, except that I like the plan that I've seen so far, and I don't need to see any more level of detail than that right now. I'm fine with it.
Then
Have to
I would
think-
like to ask for a motion from the commission to approve Paul's plan, subject to the relocation of the two trees as described, and to the modest shifting of the wall. And then I would just ask that you leave it up to me to verify that those things have been done.
So moved.
So Sandy has moved that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I just have one thing I want to bring up for the project. If anyone watched the selectmen's meeting, not this week, the previous week, Cindy Williams at the Harwich Chamber of Commerce announced that the charitable part of the Chamber of Commerce was donating funds to various organizations in the town of Harwich, including the Historical Society. And we would like to set aside that donation for this project in memory of Peggy.
Ooh,
Wow. Very nice.
Yeah.
That's
thank
good.
you.
So that was voted on at last week's board meeting.
Then I will leave you and Paul to talk about that offline. And let's get back to the motion, and I'm going to do a roll call vote. All those in favor, Janet?
Aye.
Deb, you got to turn your mute off.
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. So Paul, I would like to see something with you when you get back in town before you start work. But other than that, it sounds like we want you to go forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Ulrich. I appreciate that very much. Thanks to you and the commission. And to Marie for that very nice donation. It's a great start.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, thank you very much. Paul, you're welcome to stay or leave at your pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'm going to move ahead along. Report from me on the CPC article. We are moving forward. FinCom, as I believe I notified you all, has, with some difficulty, approved this project by a 5-2 vote. I was not sure we were going to get that approval. I'm very pleased that we have. There is still some concern that there may be some opposition at town meeting floor, and that we should continue to get the word out and to do what we can to advertise why this project is needed. On that score, I met with Marie and with Cindy Williams. And any more on that? Has Cindy done any more, Marie?
I was actually supposed to meet with her this past Saturday to do kind of a Facebook Live PR campaign to kick that off, but she was not available. Something came up at the last minute, so we're going to reschedule that video, kind of a walkthrough of the building outside and inside.
And what was going to be done with that video?
She was going to share that, I know, on her social media channels, and I'm not really sure what the scope of her plan was, but she was very enthusiastic and had a stack of papers and things that she wanted to work with. So I'm still going to meet with her further to kind of, like I said, kick off this PR campaign, just letting everyone in town know who we are, what we do, and why this building is important to the town's history.
Cindy.
Just if you could keep me posted on when that's going to happen, I'd like to have that. I'd like to put that up on the Old Timers page. I'm a little hesitant to promote it personally because of the open meeting law problems with being on a commission and advocating for it on social media. But if it's coming from somebody else, that I can put it on the page and share it, because that's, almost 2,800 people right there.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that. I can share that video when it happens.
That's great. Thank you.
I am trying to get an article in the local newspaper. Bill Galvin usually gets back to me pretty quickly, but I got to bug him again because I haven't heard after my first contact.
Let me know if
Any
there's
other
anything I
ideas?
can help with for that, David.
Say again?
Let me know if there's anything I can help with, any quotes or anything you need from me.
Okay. Any other thoughts about getting ready for town meeting?
Well, I'll be there to support you when you want to talk about it, David.
Well, I've asked, let's see. David Nixon will be presenting in general CPC articles, but not speaking on any specific ones. I'm going to say a few things. I've asked Marie to say a little bit about the museum. We're going to try to get some of the other well-spoken people in town who have been very involved. The one name that's come to my mind, and apparently he's agreed to say something, is Duncan Barry. And there may be others as well. And if it's going to be open to anyone to jump up to that mic, I always say that, if things are going well, we don't want to say too much, but we've got to be prepared. Sometimes if there's a negative comment, you simply have to follow it up with a positive comment. So we have to have enough people just ready to get up if needed.
Well, one thing you can count on when you put it on social media, you'll probably be able to get some feel for support or lack of. People are pretty outspoken.
Yeah, we've gotten mostly positive comments. FinCom was the only one that raised some red flags, and that ended up just being 2 negative votes. I believe one was simply complaining that the basement excavation was too expensive for the storage we would get out of it. The other one just seemed to be against what's going on here.
Well, one seems to think it would be fun to tear the building down.
Yeah, I don't think we have too many people who feel that.
I don't think so.
And we won't mention the Exchange building more than 20 times.
Well, you can promise that. I won't.
Okay, no more than 50 then. Okay, that's all I have to say about that one. And then the only other thing that I have is that Joe Powers would like to meet right after town meeting to really get going. I put together that very draft capital plan based on my meeting in December with Marie and with Sean Libby, and he wants to make it do a much more serious effort at costing everything out. I've done a little talking around and trying to get a handle on lead abatement with no success to date. Marie, let me ask you again if you were able to get any help from your associates.
I do. Hang on. I have something from Judy Ford over at the meeting house. I had said the Cape Cod Museum Trail might be helpful. They didn't have anyone familiar with that type of work. But yeah, I have an email from Judy Ford over at the meeting house, and I can share that with you.
Okay. Any other experts in our group on lead abatement? Well, we'll keep plugging on that one. That's the most difficult piece of the capital plan. Okay. Yes,
David, I assume you spoke to people at the library?
I have not. I know about that project. I know how that was handled. We are actually looking for other ways to handle that. We can go through an architect and do that if it turns out to be the only way, but we're gonna look for other options. All right, anything else before I move on? I'd like to move on, as you people all know. Report from the museum director.
Okay, so we were having some technical issues this morning. I know we missed the approval of minutes, but I just wanted to add a correction to that. The museum is scheduled to open on June 24th, not June 4th. So for the record, June 24th will be the first day of the farmers market. Fingers crossed. We haven't heard any changes to the farmers market mandates and regulations, so that's still good to go.
I think we can just incorporate that into our previous motion.
Thank you. And then the following Saturday, so June 26th, will be the Historical Society's annual meeting held on the grounds here at Brooks Academy, as well as the grand opening of the barn and the museum. So we'll have kind of a soft opening on Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday will be our big grand celebration of welcoming people face to face again at the museums. We have a fundraiser coming up on May 22nd. I've got my Walk Locally for Local History. It is now available on our website and our Facebook page. I feel like I'm doing an infomercial here, but what we're doing is pretty much just kind of, again, raising awareness, more of a friend-raiser, but also a fundraiser. It will be a walk down Parallel Street. You'll see some facts about Harwich Center and just kind of important landmarks as we walk through, and you can buy hats and t-shirts and some nice pullovers on our website. So it's just harwichhistoricalsociety.org/walklocal, and you can see it on our website as well. So thank you to our event sponsors and Cape Cod Embroidery for helping us set that up. We're gonna also take part in the Cape Cod Museum Trails Museum Mondays in May. So we are not technically open for the season, but we have snagged a spot on May 17th. We'll just be open in the barn for a few hours for anyone who wants to come by and take a look. That'll just be free admission. Just come by and visit the museum there. And with the help of 3 grants, one from Cape Cod 5, one from the Harwich Cultural Council, and one from the Women's Club of Chatham, we have, as of this week, purchased our Whisper headset system. So that will be arriving shortly, and we can get our walking tours and programming ready for the season. In addition to the accessibility improvements for visitors with hearing impairment, we're also expanding that project to include accommodations for those who are visually impaired. So that is a new facet to that project that I'm very pleased to say is underway as of this week as well. And that is it for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I want to make sure, as I look around to see who's here, Sally or Taffy, I want to give you an opportunity if you have any questions that I haven't asked you to speak on. You're both muted at the moment, by the way.
Yes, I saw that I was muted. No, I think I'm all set. I have been to the Museum Commission's meetings in the past when I was president, and I've stepped in to, because Peggy's no longer here as president, I've stepped in to be president for the rest of her term. So I'm getting reacquainted with the whole commission, and I hope to attend all the meetings, but I don't have any questions right at the moment. Thank you.
Now, the one thing I will tell you, if we have to meet again on Zoom rather than in person, you're going to have words with your museum director.
I am.
Yes, because she has set up a location which is brightly lit, and she's got a decoy right next to her. She's got you in shadows. So
I will have a word with her about that.
okay, I'm sure it was not intentional, but I thought I would point it out.
It's the only spot that has an electrical outlet to plug the computer in.
So you have an excuse, I see, all right.
We'll move her into the conference room next time.
Should I just get a question into Taffy? For the minutes, would you spell your last name for me?
Oh, sure. It's A-L, D as in David, R-O, V as in Victor, A-N, D as in David, I.
I should
So-
remember that, but I apologize, I didn't.
I'm sorry.
I said I should have remembered that, but
That's okay. No problem.
I just want to make sure it's right along with Deborah's H.
Okay, that's good.
Does anyone else have anything to bring up before we adjourn?
I have nothing, no problems with just being called Deb.
I might do that. Yeah.
Sally, I'm seeing a hand. But you've got your mute button on. I know your technical support is not lurking at the moment. We're giving you a technological test. You're not passing at the moment.
Find the little microphone and click on it.
Right next to your name.
On most of the screens, I don't know if you have your name there. There's a little red something or other right next to it. And what works on most of our computers is you did it. You did it.
I did it. Okay, thank you, thank you. What I wanted to say was, I've taken some notes on all the functions and things that you're going to come up with, and also the town meeting, and I'll make sure that everybody in the garden club realizes the importance of all of these things, because we haven't really done that much of promoting the museum and all of the things. We've just talked about the grounds and always been supportive of that, but I really think that there's a large body of women who would love to hear about these things more. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more of an advocate for getting things done and starting with the launch that you were talking about. So just wanted you to know you're going to have a little more help from
Good,
us.
thank you.
Thank you, Sally. I appreciate that. We can also, we're actually getting ready to send out our spring newsletter. I can give you some copies if you want to distribute those to the Garden Club.
Definitely.
Anything else? I think we're wrapping up, folks. So I'm happy to meet in May, but my sense is that we could probably meet again in June. What does anyone else think?
I think it depends on how the town meeting goes.
Okay, so I'm going to keep an eye on what happens in May, and if that doesn't happen, I will go for the second Tuesday in June, second Wednesday in June. Going once, going twice.
Sounds
Thank
like a
you.
plan.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.